Some stories don't begin with heartbreak. They begin with comfort, routine, the soft hum of a dishwasher late at night, the creak of a stair, the way two people know how to live beside each other without saying too much. That's how it was for me and Linda. I'm Tom Gallagher. I'm a plain-spoken man, not much for drama. An engineer by trade, father of 2 wonderful daughters, and, until recently, a husband of 25 years. I lived what most would call a good life. We had a quiet home down in North Carolina, right outside Raleigh, tucked between pine trees and polite neighbors. Our girls, Emily and Sophie, both went off to college up north with scholarships we could barely believe. They're smart, those girls. Brave, too. They took pieces of my heart when they left, but Linda and I, well, we were finally going to have time again. Just us. I was looking forward to it, to be honest. Even after all those years, I still looked at Linda like the sun rose and set with her. We made sacrifices for the kids, for our work. I thought this next chapter might be our reward. It was funny in a way, having date nights again, cooking together, watching her pour a glass of wine while I grilled on the back porch. I thought we'd rediscover each other, like young love in older bones. But life has a way of shifting when you're not looking. Linda started joining this writing group. Not unusual, she'd always dabbled in stories, talked about writing her novel someday. I supported it, truly. Gave her space, stayed quiet when her group met in the living room. I even got to know a few of them. Some were sweet. Others rubbed me the wrong way, especially Ethan. There was something about him. The way he laughed a little too loud. The way Linda's eyes lingered when he spoke. I told myself it was nothing. I trusted her. You don't get to 25 years without some kind of trust, right? Still, I noticed things. She started coming. To bed later. She was always distracted. And one evening, I overheard something I wasn't meant to hear. Her voice on the phone, soft and strange. 6 weeks. No commitments. I owe it to myself. You owe it to yourself, too. That wasn't for me. It never was. I didn't know it then, but something in me shifted that night. Quietly. Like the first crack in ice before it gives way. And though it would take months to unravel, that was the moment I knew. My wife had already left home. She just hadn't packed her bags yet. Funny thing about losing someone, it doesn't always happen in one big moment. Sometimes it's a slow fade, like watching your favorite photograph sit in the sun too long until the colors start to drain out. That's how it started with Linda. After the girls left for college, she threw herself into writing, said it was time she finally gave her dreams a fair shot. I was proud of her for that. I really was. I figured she'd earned the right to focus on herself after raising 2 strong daughters. She joined a new writing group that met once a week, rotating between each member's house. I made myself scarce when it was our turn to host. Sat on the back porch with a beer, listened to them talk through the screen door. They sounded like any group of writers, talking characters, dialogue, story arcs. But over time, their conversations shifted, got bolder, louder, and one voice started to rise above the rest. Ethan. Ethan had that kind of voice that made you feel like you were on the outside of an inside joke, always confident, always knowing. When I first met him, he looked me up and down like he was scanning a grocery shelf, smiled with just one corner of his mouth. I introduced myself. Tom Gallagher. He said, "So, Tommy, what's your gig?" Linda flinched at that. She hated when people called me Tommy. I told him I was an engineer, kept things running. He smirked. That sounds steady. That word stuck with me. Steady. Like it was some kind of insult. Week after week, Ethan seemed to grow bolder, leaning close to Linda during group discussions, making inside jokes that I didn't understand, bringing her new books she just had to read. I noticed her laugh changing, more open, more flirtatious. Not the laugh she had with me. Still, I trusted her. 25 years of marriage buys you that, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel the shift. She started staying, out longer after their meetings. Said they were discussing stories, getting drinks, being creative. Her eyes would gloss over when I asked how it went. Fine. That was all I got. Then came the night I overheard her on the phone. I had just come in from the yard, wiping, my hands off on a rag when I caught her voice in the kitchen, soft, low, excited in a way I hadn't heard in years. I can't wait. 6 weeks without responsibility. Just writing, freedom, no one waiting for me. She paused. Yes, you too. I want that. I want you. I stood frozen in the hallway, her words sliding down my spine like ice water. When I stepped into the kitchen, she nearly dropped the phone. Oh, Tom, you startled me. I asked who she was talking to. She blinked. Too quickly. Regina? We were talking about school closures. She smiled, tight and forced. I didn't press her. Not yet. But something inside me had already cracked open. A few days later, she sat across from me at dinner, grinning like a girl who'd won the lottery. Guess what? I got into that Illinois writer's workshop I applied for months ago. I remembered overhearing her mention it to Ethan in the group back in March, but she had never said a word to me about applying. I smiled. That's great, honey. Maybe I could come visit while you're there? Her smile dimmed. Oh, I don't think I'll have time. It's a very intensive program. Lectures, workshops, readings. Besides, you'd be bored. I nodded, chewing slowly. I don't mind being bored. I like watching you do what you love. She laughed. But it wasn't warm. It was nervous. Let's just see how it goes. Okay. That's when I knew. She didn't want me there. She wasn't going to tell me what really waited for her in Illinois, and for the first time in 25 years, I didn't know who I was sitting across from anymore. They say trust is like glass. Once it's cracked, it might still hold, but you'll always see the fracture. After that dinner, something shifted in me. I didn't yell, I didn't accuse, I didn't even ask more questions. But I started watching, more closely. I noticed how Linda would linger on her phone after dinner, always stepping into another room to take a call. The messages, the smiles she tried to hide. She was careful, but not careful enough. One evening, while she was out buying groceries, I looked at the phone bill. Every incoming and outgoing call was right there, time-stamped. There it was, Ethan's number. Again and again. And then came the kicker. The call I interrupted in the kitchen that day? Not Regina. It was him. Of course it was. I didn't confront her, not yet. What would I even say? I needed to know more, not just suspicion, proof. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I hired a private investigator. A friend at work, Mike, had gone through something similar a few years back. Quiet guy, steady. Like me. He gave me a name in Illinois. Discreet, experienced professional. The man didn't flinch when I laid it all out. Said the fact that the workshop was held on a public university campus would actually make it easier to work around. He had a team, some of them young enough to pass for college students. They could blend in, hang out at the same cafes, join the evening socials. He promised I'd know everything, every move she made. All I had to do was wait. Meanwhile, at home, Linda was radiant, glowing even, talking more about finding herself, rediscovering her voice, writing from truth. I listened, nodding, pretending. I made her favorite dinners, poured her wine, said I was proud. And I was, in a way. I was proud of how well I was hiding my broken heart. The day she left for Illinois, I stood by the front door with her suitcase in my hand. Please don't do anything that'll break us, I said quietly. She looked at me like I was the one, being dramatic. Tom, I'm tired of your suspicions. We'll talk about this when I get back. She kissed my cheek, not my lips. And just like that, she was gone. The very next day, I got the first update from the PI. Linda had arrived. She wasn't wearing her wedding ring. He sent a picture of her standing beside Ethan, holding hands as they walked into the dorm building. That same evening, she was seen leaning into him, whispering something that made them both laugh. The next update came with a short video. The camera was placed discreetly in the hallway under Ethan's door. The footage was clear. Too clear. 20 minutes of truth I never wanted to see. That night, I sat in our now too quiet home and cried like a man who'd been struck by a freight train but was expected to get up and make breakfast the next morning. But I didn't break. Things. I didn't scream, I didn't call her, I planned, I changed the locks, called the movers, transferred the house title to her name with a quitclaim deed, no alimony, no shared finances. I updated my will, removed her name from everything, made my daughters my sole beneficiaries. I accepted a transfer offer from my company's Portland, Maine office. Every step was deliberate, quiet, final. While she was out finding inspiration, I was quietly disappearing. By the time week 4 of the workshop rolled around, the PI had gathered everything. Dozens of pictures, hours of recordings, conversations, touches, looks. Even the moment Linda introduced herself to someone new as recently divorced. That hit the hardest. She had erased me long before I decided to walk away. But I wasn't going to rage or punish. I wouldn't destroy her life. I'd simply remove myself from it. That would be enough. By the time Linda's 6-week workshop was wrapping up, my plan was nearly complete. The house was half empty. Movers had come and gone. I left only what she'd need, and the truth. On the dining table sat an envelope. Inside, printed call logs. Photos of her with Ethan, and a few selected screenshots from the hallway video. Nothing graphic, just enough to show her what I knew. I placed a note on top. In my handwriting, I loved you for 25 years. You left me long before you packed a bag. Next to it was a copy of the divorce papers, all filled out. And just like that, I was gone. I didn't even wait for her flight to land. I wanted her to return to silence. No confrontation, no shouting, just absence. It was strange, leaving the home we'd built together. The place where I taught our daughters to ride bikes, grilled burgers on the 4th of July, patched scraped knees, and kissed tired foreheads goodnight. But it didn't feel like my home anymore. Not since trust had left it. I headed north. No specific route. No hotel booked. Just me, a packed car, a map, and silence. First stop was Williamsburg. I wandered through the old town, listened to the cobblestone streets under my boots, talked to craftsmen who reminded me that slow, careful work still matters. I ate alone at a small diner. Grits, bacon, toast, real food that felt like it belonged to a different time. From there, I went on to Maryland, then New Jersey, then Connecticut. Each mile felt like peeling off a layer of grief. But the hardest stop? Rhode Island, Emily. She was my oldest. Smart, sensitive, a thinker like me. I had told her nothing until I arrived at her dorm unannounced. She opened the door, saw my face, and just knew. We sat in her room for hours. I showed her the pictures. Let her hear a snippet of the recording, not the worst part, just enough. She cried. How could she? This isn't the mom who raised us. I held her hand and said, She's still your mom. What she did, that's between us. I need you to stay kind. She nodded, slowly, the way kids do when they're trying to grow up all at once. We had dinner with her friends that night, laughed, shared stories. I told them about college meals from back in the 80s. They treated me like someone worth keeping around. It meant more than they knew. Next was Boston. Sophie, my younger one, always more reserved, always sharper in a quiet way. She wasn't surprised. Mom already called. She's trying to find you. I didn't answer. She didn't cry. She just sat with me, and we talked like two adults. At one point, she looked me straight in the eye and said, "Dad, she doesn't get to rewrite what love means. You do." That stuck with me. We hugged long and hard. I promised to call often. And then I was off again, toward the mountains, toward peace. In New Hampshire, I climbed Mount Washington on a chilly morning. The wind howled like winter itself was clearing its throat. I stood at the summit and breathed for what felt like the first time in months, cold, clean, empty, but not broken. Eventually, I reached Portland, Maine, my new life. The office welcomed me with open arms. We grilled steaks behind my manager's house on my first weekend. No awkwardness, no questions I didn't want to answer. Just people being people. When they asked what brought me here, I smiled. Let's just say, I needed a change of scenery, a fresh start. I now live in a small 2-bedroom apartment above a bakery that opens at 6 a.m. The smell of bread wakes me up, and for once, that's not a bad thing. I walk to work. I see the harbor on my lunch breaks. I've started looking at boats again. Maybe I'll buy one. Maybe I won't. Linda still calls, still texts, still tries to rewrite the ending. But that chapter, it's closed. I didn't burn her life to the ground. I just stepped out of the fire and let her warm her hands alone. And, you know what? I don't miss the heat. Sometimes the people we trust the most are the ones who teach us how strong we truly are. For 25 years, I believed that love meant showing up no matter what, being the steady one, the safe one. And maybe that's what made it so easy for her to take me for granted. But here's what I've learned. You can't make someone stay. You can only be someone worth staying for. I didn't fight. I didn't shout. I didn't tear her down. I just walked away. And in doing that, I finally started walking toward myself. I won't lie to you. Starting over at my age wasn't easy. Packing up your life, leaving behind the smell of the old couch, the kitchen table with years of laughter etched into its wood, the photographs, the memories. It hurts. But there's a strange kind of beauty in beginning again. These days I find comfort in the little things. A warm cup of coffee on a quiet Maine morning, the laughter of my daughters over weekend dinners, the sound of seagulls, the creak of a dock under my feet. I'm not who I was, and that's okay. If you're sitting alone right now, trying to hold the pieces of your life together after someone you loved broke it, let me say this to you. You are not alone. You are not too old to begin again. And it is never too late to choose peace over pain. There's no shame in loving someone who let you down. But there is strength, real strength, in loving yourself enough to walk away when it's time. I lost my wife. But I found something better. I found freedom. I found clarity. And slowly, I'm finding peace. So if this story spoke to you, if it stirred something in your heart, stay with us, subscribe, share your story in the comments. Because every day, somewhere out there, someone just like you is trying to figure out if it's too late to start over. It's not. Thank you for watching.